Well, welcome to Mor-In The Know podcast. I'm your host, Josh Morin, Vice President and co-founder of Field Supplements, as well as sobriety, woke, business, and wellness coach. Mor-In The Know delivers an array of content based on marketing, health and fitness, personal branding, addiction, and often goes down the rabbit hole of conspiracy, politics, and the truth. If you seek to better understand the inner workings of human performance, consciousness, humanity, and business, you have come to the right place. Thank you for tuning in and tagging along. Let's get today's podcast started. What's good, everybody? It's a beautiful Thursday, Glendale, Arizona, tuning in, episode number 17. We are rocking and rolling. Crazy to think that 1 month ago, just a little over 1 month ago, I started my very first podcast, and to see the progression over this last month has been awesome, and the support has been incredible. So thank you guys for joining in. I've had a lot of phenomenal feedback, and I am looking forward to continuing to deliver my message over the next year to 2 years to 3 years to 4 years to however long that this platform is available to me. So there's a lot of wild and crazy things going on in the world right now, but I believe that we're waking up. We're beginning to come to the light, man. We're waking up, and we're starting to see things for what they are. People are starting to question. People are beginning to dig deep and seek for the truth, because the truth is not taught; it is learned. And if you could live your life by that and begin to question every single piece of content that comes into your life. Now, you don't have to start to question everybody and every person, but begin to be a critical thinker. Begin to develop a mindset where you want to dig a little bit deeper into that content or context to find out what the truth really is, and not what is just being said or being told to you, but what actually is being meant, or what actually the content really is. So I'm really beginning to see a lot of people waking up, and it's cool because a couple months ago, when I made a few posts about what the situation going on, essentially saying that COVID-19 is the wooden Trojan horse for a large-scale agenda behind the scenes for the global elites to create and to develop and to cultivate their one mission, which is a new world order. And I'll talk about that at a later point, but essentially I was ridiculed, and I was told that I was a conspiracy theorist, and I was going off the deep end, that I'm a crazy person. And I'm for sure all those things. Yes, I'm a crazy person. I understand it. We all are crazy people, but there's so much truth behind the words that I said. I don't just start to speak about things that I don't know, and I truly believe that that's what people start to do, is they'll start to talk about shit that they don't know. So if you don't know something and you're not educated in something, just don't speak about it. But I'm educated enough in the things that I talk about that I have hard, cold facts. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe in crazy conspiracies. I just believe in the facts. And the facts have been laid out simply in front of our eyes, and they're given to us. And when you can begin to connect the dots instead of be a sheep and follow the mainstream media, then it'll allow you to step into your truth and step into your power. So it's really awesome to see people coming into light, coming into fruition, and beginning to wake up, because that's what this world is going to require, is a waking up process. We're going to have to go from these low levels of transmutational energy of fear, guilt, anxiety, and really step into pride, step in even anger, courage, acceptance, forgiveness. And when you can raise your transmutational energy, and when you can heighten your vibration, what's going to happen is you're going to become more conscious. And as you become more conscious, what happens is you become more connected to source. We're in the third dimension, but as you raise your levels of consciousness, you're able to access information in the fourth dimension. And when you're able to access this information, you begin to drop your ego, you begin to live in your truth, you begin to live in the space and place of understanding, forgiveness, of oneness, of flow, and there's no resistance. It's a state of complete ease. There's no disease, there's no stress. It's stress-free, it's selfless, it's love, it's bliss, it's all these great things. But to receive the benefits, and I hate saying benefits and talking about that, because that's typically the ego trying to find words to identify, because when you raise your consciousness and you are in a state of love, bliss, and enlightenment, they're just states of is. They just are. There's really no explanation. It just is one with. But when you break down the transmutational levels, you have to speak of them in this sort of sense. So for the terms of our brains to be able to understand and to identify and attach what these levels are, I'm going to speak about some of these things this way. But as you raise your vibration, as you increase in your consciousness and move through the transmutational energy scale from these lower levels of vibration under 200 decimals per second, and you start to heighten your awareness, and you move into 300, 400, 500 decimals per second, and you're starting to vibrate on this level that is conducive to receiving information to you from the fourth dimension. You'll begin to pry open your mind. Essentially, your mind will become connected. It's really crazy because this is not what we're taught in school. We're not taught how to meditate. We're not taught how to connect to ourselves. We're not taught what consciousness is. We're taught all the wrong things when the right things that we should be being taught is this. We should be taught on self-awareness. We should be taught on forgiveness. We should be taught on understanding our traumas and our pain bodies in our bodies. We should be being taught how to let go. We should be being taught how to love and be loved and love freely. And these are things that aren't being taught in school systems. But what happens is we go through the school system, we go through an entire life. Our parents most of the time don't know this information, so we're not taught this from our parents either. And what happens is one day we find ourselves as an addict, or we find ourselves holding on to our trauma. My situation is I held on to my traumas from when I was a child, and I became an adult addict. The moment I left the house, I became an addict. And I'll touch more on that story on a later podcast. But essentially what happens is this scenario and situation from the time that we're born to the time that we're become adults at 18 years old, nowhere in between is somebody speaking these things. I was never taught these things in school, and if you were to think about these things, or if you were to try to do these things, you were kind of a weirdo hippie person, you're a witchy hippie person, or you're a spiritual weirdo, right? Now, I do believe that in some faiths, as in religion, do teach a lot of these same principles, but I'm not going to go into religion and my thoughts about religion. I do believe in God. I do believe in source, and there has to be something. I do believe in the divine, and because after I'm dead, consciousness goes on for forever, and reincarnation and whatever consciousness is ever fluid. So when I die, I leave my body. My body is temporary, but consciousness is forever. But none of this information is really truly being available from a young age. So what happens is we live our entire lives going through the system and being given information that is not true. And we're talking about textbooks and history books and the way that things are portrayed in throughout school. If you look at the actual factual information of what actually happened, a lot of the information that is given in these textbooks and that what we're taught is not true. Look at the facts. And that's the point of which when you become adults, what happens is you just become part of the system. And that's what they want. This goes deep, man. This goes deep. This is so deep, it's called the deep state, where 1 to 1,000 people essentially control, dictate, run the school system, run the medical system, run the money in the banks, run the media. Everything that you can think of, 1 to 1,000 people control this information. And if you have 1 to 1,000 people controlling this information, how are you going to step out? And the moment that you do finally step out and break free, it's almost like you're a black sheep, and people begin to say that you are losing your mind, that you are a crazy person. But that's okay with me. I'd rather be a crazy person than to be fogged and to be blinded by what is actually going on. Because the truth shall set you free, and that's how I feel. Now, knowing this information to me allows me to be one step ahead of the developing situation in the world, is when I can understand the pandemic of how you can break down COVID-19 and how that's getting infiltrated into the world. Because let's face it, there's a huge master plan behind this. It's called there's a problem solution, or problem scenario solution. So essentially what happens is they present a problem that might not even be real. And I'm not going to touch on that in this podcast, but they present a problem that might not even be real. And then all of a sudden, the people are going crazy. People are saying something must be done. You get to a breaking point, right? And then all of a sudden, the same people who created the problem now have a solution. Here comes a vaccine. Here comes a microchip. This is how we're going to have to fix this. Everybody's going to have to get vaccinated. Everybody's going to have to get tested. But the same people who created the problem and who are behind creating the problem now have the solution. And if that's not fishy to you, if that doesn't raise red flags, man, I don't know what is. Do your research and you'll begin to understand it's very interconnected. Now, I'm not saying that COVID-19 is not real. I'm not saying that quite openly yet, because then I'll really get some backlash. But what I'm saying is it's not what it's made out to be. First and foremost, the CDC has come out and publicly said that they've botched the numbers. That over 99% of COVID-19 deaths aren't actually COVID-19. There's some form of COPD or pneumonia or something else. I mean, you can fall down the stairs and die, and they're like, oh, that's COVID. Of course the numbers are going to be botched. Of course. But why would they want to botch these numbers? First and foremost, Medicaid is giving them anywhere between $13,000 for a COVID case to when that COVID case gets put on a ventilator, it's $39,000. So there's huge money into this. Big Pharma is involved in all of this. So when all this comes around, when all this circles back around, sure, you could get lost in the sauce and be like, well, all right, this is all great, and you're telling us information that may or may not be true. What do we do as people? Well, what do we do as people is we stand up for our rights. You begin to become conscious of what our rights are. First and foremost, our right of speech, our freedom of speech. I've begun to see videos just being taken down on these platforms because they don't follow community policy guidelines that adhere to the CDC and the WHO. Whenever has anything ever been taken down because it doesn't follow, because it's all of a sudden fact-checked? You can have as many videos online as you would like that doesn't even have to be fact-checked by fucking who? By the WHO and the CDC? Get out of here. They're all working together. The CDC, Google, Facebook, all these platforms. I'm glad that I'm able to use these platforms to be able to spread this message. That's where they fucked up. Is people are waking up to the truth. People are waking up to the truth, and I'm no longer being told that I'm a crazy person by the same number of people who were telling me I'm a crazy person 6 weeks ago. Because once you have been red-pilled, once you've been given the pill and you can't go back, then you'll begin to understand and you'll act, your mind will automatically get into this place of seek truthing. Like, man, whoa, this is the truth? This is what's going on? And all of a sudden you'll find another piece of content and you'll go down the rabbit hole. And you'll find another piece of content and you'll go down the rabbit hole. And then you'll find another piece, and all of a sudden, pretty soon, over time, you have accumulated this pile of information of backing that is irrefutable. It's so factual, it's so dense, it's so backed by concrete evidence that there's no way that you could go back to the other side. And my last message in today's podcast is this. If somebody isn't quite where you're at consciously, if you're not quite as woke, if you want to use those words, and I don't like compare wokeness, but if people that you know and you're struggling, that maybe you're frustrated with because these people are writing you off, have patience with these people. Have patience. Provide them with some resources, and if they want to hear the truth, they will hear the truth. And when they're ready to wake up, they'll wake up. But until they're ready to wake up, they won't wake up. That's just how it is. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Continue to be a phenomenal friend. Don't burn the bridges and the relationships that you have with these great people in your life, like your family, because of this. Don't allow the situation to divide us even more than it has. My message all along has, from the beginning of this, and even for years and years, if you trace back to my content from 2012 to now, is it's always been the same message. The message has always been the same, is that love is the answer and always will be the answer. Connectivity is and always will be, at our core, the answer. Because if we can come together as a collective consciousness, if we can vibrate to the level of love, forgiveness, and understanding, guess what would happen? We would see a huge conscious shift. We'd see quantum leaps. And on a metaphysical plane, what would go on, and there'd be a huge phenomenon across the world where people would start to see the truth, would start to see that the rat race and what life isn't how it has to be. And that 1 to 1,000 people are controlling this information, are controlling our money, are controlling how in depth we are controlling how manipulated and controlled we are by our media sources. They're controlling our children. They're mandating things that we don't have to have, and we're getting lied to. And it's your job to be a patriot, to stand up, step into your truth, not just say, well, I don't see this information on TV. You're not going to see it on TV. It's going to take some time. You have to dive in. You have to want to find this information. You have to want to pry your open mind. And like I said, when you're ready to wake up, you will wake up. That is today's podcast, episode 17 on Mor-In The Know. Thank you guys for joining in and tuning along. Behind me, Field Supplements, the highest quality products on the market, top of the line manufacturing procedures, and the best raw ingredients to help you achieve your goals, because hopefully the gyms are opening up here and you will require not only a spot, because I know the bar is going to be heavy for you, but you're going to require some aminos, some protein. So check out fieldsupplements.com. That's our website. Find us on Instagram at Field Supplements. Head to my personal website at morintheknow.org, or find me on Instagram and stay in the know at Morin The Know. That's MorinTheKnow. And you guys have a blessed Thursday.